Hello, good day. Welcome to our Sixth JWF Webinar, the final edition of the first season of our webinar. My name is Reiko Yoshi. I'm a manager at Japan Water Forum. Before we get started, let me explain the flow of the webinar. First, our director, Mr. Asai, will present small remarks. After that, today's guest speaker, Mr. OHKAMI Yohei, will present about sewage and water environment improvement. Then we'll move on to the Q&A session. During Q&A session, we'll answer the questions that participants posted in the Q&A box. We will answer all questions. We are given about 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, please post it in the Q&A box. We welcome all questions. Now, let's move on to the remarks from Mr. Asai. Asai-san, you have the floor.
Thank you, Reiko-san. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to thank all of you for attending the sixth webinar of the JWF Webinar series that aims to share Japan's practical know-how and experiences on how to address water-related issues in its long history. Today's sixth webinar is the final edition of the first season of the JWF Webinar series, as Reiko-san said, and is going to feature the topic of wastewater treatment and management, which is one of the biggest challenges in the world. More than 80% of the world's wastewater resulting from human activities is discharged into rivers, lakes, or sea without any pollution removal. This often has a severely negative impact on the freshwater and the ocean environment and human health. It is also reported that the area of farmland irrigated with untreated water is being increased, risking food safety. On the other hand, the wastewater is a source of water, energy, and nutrients. It should be recycled or safely reused and evaluated in the context of the circular economy. At our third webinar, we covered Japan's experience in on-site sanitation in rural areas. Today, we will highlight the solutions in urban areas as complementary to the previous one. We have a distinguished guest speaker from the Storage Works Department of the Ministry. He will share Japan's efforts in this area with a focus on the legal frameworks and the standards, and also cover current challenges such as flood prevention and decarbonization. I hope today's exchange and discussion will be timely and informative for you, and also become a great starting point leading out our future cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. Now I'd like to introduce the guest speaker for today, Mr. OHKAMI Yohei. He has been working as a civil engineer in the field of sewage, water, and disaster management for more than 10 years. He joined Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism in 2008. He was engaged in the Sewage and Wastewater Management Department as a chief of planning section for several years. From March 2016 to March 2019, he was transferred to the Embassy of Japan in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as the first secretary and infrastructure attaché. Okay, let's welcome our guest speaker for today, Mr. OHKAMI. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Yoshi-san and Asai-san. And good day, everyone. I appreciate your participation. I'm OHKAMI from MLIT, Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, transport, and tourism. I'm so pleased to be here with you today, online. Today, I'd like to talk about sewage and water environment improvement in Japan. Preserving a clean water environment is essential for the sustainable development so that we have a target in the Sustainable Development Goals. It would be grateful if today's presentation will be useful for you. So let's get started. My presentation entitled Sewage and Water Environment Improvement. This is the photo of Sumida River that flows through central Tokyo. In Japan, you can enjoy the beautiful scenery of river, and you can enjoy eating lunchbox alongside of the river, even in urban area as well. It is said that Japan is a beautiful country and Japan has a clean water environment. But this is not something that comes naturally. This is the same photo of same river in 1970s, just only 50 years ago. As you can see, people were covering their nose. That was due to the awful smell of the river. At that time, in 1970s, Japan was in tremendous economic growth and population growth. As a side effect of the growth, the rivers in urban area were so polluted due to the inflow of untreated wastewater. This is also a photo of Tama River that flows in Tokyo. You can see the bubble that covers the river and waste as well. This bubble were caused by a synthetic detergent in domestic wastewater. So Japan overcame these problems such as water pollutions with continuous efforts. Therefore, today, I'd like to share with you how Japan improved water environment. These are the topics that I'll cover today. Firstly, the modern history of sewage works in Japan, and then legal framework for environment. And finally, let me conclude by sharing current issues and policy. Japan's modern sewage started about 100 years ago in 1880 in large cities such as Tokyo and Yokohama. Purposes of sewage works at the time are preventing floods by rainwater and preventing outbreak of infectious disease. Then, as I explained, Japan experienced the rapid population growth and urbanization in 1970s and caused water pollutions. These were not only in Tokyo, but also this is the case of Kita-kyushu city. Kita-kyushu city is located near the Kumamoto city, where we will hold a 4th Asia Pacific Water Summit in coming April. Kita-kyushu City was one of the Japan's leading industrial city in 1970s, and industrial wastewater caused serious water pollution, not only in the river, but also in the sea. The water pollution was so serious and caused heavy diseases. Then the issues were not treated as local matters, but treated as national severe issues. Therefore, issues were discussed intensively in the Diet. We call it a pollution session of Diet in 1970. And pollution session of Diet developed the framework of environment sanitation policies. We can highlight the major achievements of the pollution session, mainly following two. Firstly, enactment of water pollution control law. That was an introduction of regulation against all factories and industries. And as a result, secondly, amendment of Sewerage Law that was added. Water quality preservation of public water bodies as one of the main objectives of sewage. Then, based on the framework of law, Japan has been conducting sewage projects. This graph shows the sewage penetration rate in Japan. As you can see, the sewage system has spread rapidly after the 1970s. The pollution diet was held. And now, as of 2020, more than 100 million people can use a sewage system in Japan, and the percent of sewered population is more than 80% as of 2020. As a result of spreading sewage system and enactment of water pollution control law, the water quality has improved dramatically, and rivers have regained a very good water environment. These photos are the case of Tama River that I showed you earlier. We can now see ayu in Tama River. Ayu is sweet fish, one of the symbols of the fish in clean upstream. This is the picture of water quality improvement in Kita-kyushu City. The water quality of the sea has improved as well. So now we can enjoy the beautiful scenery of the sea in Kita-kyushu. Then I'd like to share with you the legal framework for water environment in Japan. As I explained, the framework was almost set through pollution diet in 1970. Firstly, the basic law for environmental quality standards were established. Standards for the protection of human health and standards for the conservation of the living environment are both settled. Water pollution control law aims to meet the environmental standards. The Water Pollution Control Law stipulates the following national-wide effluent regulations on factories or commercial facilities, and water quality monitoring at public water area by local governments, and regulations domestic wastewater control, and fourthly, total pollutant load control in enclosed coastal seas, such as Tokyo Bay. Here is the health items of environmental quality standard for water pollution. 27 items are settled. We define toxic substances which can affect people's health by taking in their direct drink or food as health items. When setting up a basis, it took into consideration that not only exposure via food or drink directly, but also people's accidental drinks by the water polluting in water body. This basis is to be uniformly applied to all public waters. This table is living environmental item of environmental quality standard for water pollution. As you can see, a living environmental item differs for every forms such as river, lake, and sea area. For example, nitrogen and phosphorus are set only to lake and sea areas where the enclosed water body and standard values are different according to the utilization object of water. The effluent control of the Water Pollution Control Law stipulates effluent standards that are uniform across all industries for the specified establishment throughout the country. The control is carried out using the so-called direct penalty system, by which penalties can be applied simply because of excess concentrations. This is the relation between the EQS, environmental quality standards, and effluent standards. Effluent standards are applied on factories and establishments in order to satisfy EQS quality standards. For example, effluent standard for cadmium is set as 10 times as an environmental quality standard. In considering that the effluent is diluted by river water. Basically, the effluent standard are uniform value throughout Japan. However, there are some cases where factories in specific industry cannot satisfy standard for certain item. In this case, a provisional effluent standard for a specific business category and for a specific item is applied by specifying a time limit. This table is items for effluent standards. I will skip the explanation for details. Let me explain about the Sewerage Law, especially on effluent quality. The Sewerage Law has the following three major objectives. Firstly, the sound development of urban areas by preventing a flood. Secondly, a contribution to improvement of public health by preventing outbreak of infectious diseases. And thirdly, a preservation of water quality in public water body that was added in pollution diet in 1970. For these purposes, effluent from treatment plants must be satisfied with stricter quality standards. This is a table of the quality standards for wastewater treatment plants. BOD, nitrogen, phosphorus depend on the water body, but basically it's a stricter quality standard in order to meet the quality standard for environment. The following figure shows the application of water quality laws that I have explained. The water pollution control law applies to water that flows directly from factory into rivers or public water area. If it is discharged from a factory into river through sewage treatment facilities, between factory and sewage treatment plant, sewage law is applied. But the effluent from sewage treatment plants is subject to both the water pollution control law and sewerage law. Other than effluent quality, let me explain some key points of sewerage law. The firstly, national government subsidies to local governments for construction of sewerage systems and charge for the use of sewerage systems from individuals. And thirdly, local governments are the project implementation agencies. And finally, obligation to formulate a sewerage master plan to improve the water quality of public water bodies, so that the local governments that are the project implementation agencies can spread sewerage systems with national subsidies and maintain the systems with charge from individuals. Addition to that, there is a connection obligation in the law. Landowner compelled to use sewerage system in sewerage served areas. If they fail to comply, they may be subject to the penalties, such as criminal fines. The reason why we have this obligation is just to work the sewerage systems. Without connection, the sewerage doesn't work, and we cannot conserve the water environment. This diagram shows the outline of sewerage law. The law stipulates the purposes, structural standards, and standard for the effluent, quality, and financial scheme, such as subsidies and charges. As an implementation agency, local governments make a comprehensive planning of sewerage system. Based on the planning, they will work based on the structure standard and standard for effluent quality. Based on these frameworks of law, in Japan, sewerage has spread, as I explained. As a result of the rapid installation of sewerage systems, environmental conditions have been gradually improving. This graph shows the achievement rate of water quality standard of BOD or COD. As you can see, more than 90% of rivers achieved their environmental standards. But it seems like it will take longer time in lakes, because one of the reasons is the lake is a closed water body where the change of water, I mean the inflow and outflow, proceeds slowly. So that if you want to improve water quality, especially in the closed water body, you need to take action immediately. So finally, I'd like to explain some of the current issues and policy in Japan. As I explained, around 1970s, the issues are mainly these spread of sewage treatment system and improvement of water quality. But now, these past issues have been almost resolved. On the other hand, the new issues have emerged, such as urban flooding prevention, use of reclaimed wastewater. These are caused by especially climate changes, and stock management after the installation of sewerage systems. And more recently, we are focusing the issue toward the decarbonized society. So I'd like to explain about sludge resource recycling towards the decarbonized society. We need a lot of energy for the wastewater treatment in order to ensure the good effluent quality. In Japan, energy cost for treatment is about $1 billion annually. And CO2 from electricity accounted for about 60% of total greenhouse gas emission from sewerage systems. We are now pursuing the energy saving seriously. Not only the development facilities, but also improve the operation as well. In addition to the water treatment, in order to carry out a sewage treatment it is important to properly pull out and treat sewage sludge so that Sewerage Law obliges appropriate treatment of sewage sludge. That means includes recycling as well. Japan converted the concept of sewage system treatment plant sewage sludge from facilities to collect, treat, and dispose into facilities to collect and reuse resource and energy discharged from the urban area. We are now accelerate to recycle sewage sludge as resource and energy in order to ensure stable treatment and to solve the global warming. This graph shows the recycle ratio of sewage sludge. Unfortunately, ratio declined drastically in 2011 due to the Great East Japan earthquake, but we are now gradually recovered the ratio. From the point of view of the resources, storage systems and treatments plants are treasure-trove. We can utilize a biogas, hydrogen, and biosolid fuel from sludge. And also, we can utilize wastewater heat for air cooling and heating. Sludge can be utilized as fertilizer and construction material as well. Currently, more than 300 million kilowatts of electricity is generated annually by the biogas power generation, which is equivalent to the annual consumption of 60,000 households. Now in Japan, 180 plants are operated for the power generation from biogas. And the sewage sludge becomes sludge 4 by drying and carbonizing. In partnership with electric power company, carbonized biosolid fuel is used as a substitute for coal in thermal power plants that are operated in 20 treatment plants in Japan. In one of the cases, the power generated is equivalent to the annual consumption of 1,270 households. Not only the energy, sludge can be used as fertilizer. This is an example of Gifu City, where phosphorus recovered from sewage sludge and used as fertilizer. The vegetables grown with this fertilizer are reputed to be delicious. Japan imported all amounts of phosphorus, but approximately 40% of phosphorus comes through sewerage systems. This is the activity of Saga City. Saga City is located near the Kumamoto city. In Saga City, a lot of high quality crops are produced by utilizing fertilizer from sewage sludge. And the sewage treatment plants produce treated water containing nutrient salts. Especially in the winter, seaweed needs much nutrition so that the treatment plants operate to supply the nutrition for the seaweed. These activities are getting popular among farmers. We try to expand these activities nationwide under the name of BISTRO Sewerage, the concept of connecting sewage sludge to food. Towards the decarbonized society, it is required to deal with new issues such as energy saving and efficient utilization of resources. In order to these new demands, we, MLIT in Japan, initiated a demonstration program which enable to test innovative cutting-edge technologies by utilizing the government fund. Many projects have been carried out, such as biomass power generation and hydrogen production, and so on. As I have explained so far, we have been promoting sewerage projects from various perspectives, starting with ensuring the public sanitation, preserving public water bodies, and recently, stock management and recycling towards the decarbonized society. To achieve SDGs, sewerage system is one of the effective systems in order to meet the target 6.3, that is the halving the proportion of untreated wastewater. As Japan did, the effective legal framework and efforts with governmental proper subsidies are essential to drive forward. Furthermore, I believe with the cutting-edge technologies, sewerage systems will be able to contribute to the decarbonized society. And with the international cooperation and partnerships, we can drive together to realize the better society. The fourth APWS Asia Pacific Water Summit will be held in coming April up at Kumamoto City. During the summit, we are also planning to have parallel session related to sewerage. We would like to discuss more for the better society with your participation. Thank you for your kind attention. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your great and concise presentation, Mr. Okami. It is very, I was very impressed by the use of the energy from the sewage sludge. And then also, I was amazed your picture, many picture and graph. It's very concise. Now, we would like to move on to the Q&A session. First, let me ask a question about sewage system. In Japan, as Asai-san said, we have two different wastewater treatment systems. Centralized treatment system and Japanese septic tank, namely on-site JOKASO system. So how do you share the responsibility of two different systems? Could you answer the questions?
Thank you for your important question. To achieve the SDGs target 6.3, it's quite important to select the wastewater facility among the centralized storage systems and decentralized JOKASO system and so on. In Japan, master plan for wastewater facility have been formulated based on the comparison of economic efficiency, considering the characteristics of each wastewater facilities. Basically, sewerage is for the urban areas, and the JOKASO or decentralized system is for the rural area. But if you compare the systems with the economic aspects, there is an equilibrium point. And a key point is that you should consider the cost of not only the construction cost, but also you need to consider the maintenance and operation cost in order to ensure the stable treatment.
Thank you very much. Now, let's move on to the speaker's question. Asai-san, are there any good questions from the listeners?
Thank you. We have questions posted from the audience. Thank you for posting. The first question regarding the maybe the water pollution in lakes. The question is that what do you think is effective way to clean water of lakes? Could you answer this question?
Thank you very much for the good question. Actually, it is difficult to improve the quality water of lakes. As I explained, even in Japan, the water quality in lakes have been slowly improving. But I think the I cannot say the most effective solutions, but I think it's important to take an action in the comprehensive ways. For example, the effluent from facilities and the treatment plants should be stricter for the lakes. And in addition to that, the purifying the water directly in the lake is also effective. So we need to take action in a comprehensive way.
Thanks. Thank you very much for your informative and also the thoughtful answer. I'd like to move on to the next question. the question about the safety of the sewage sludge. The question is that are there no health issues in using sewage sludge as fertilizer?
Thank you for the good question. Yeah, actually, the sludge contains heavy metals. So I don't think all of sludge can be used for fertilizer. But in Japan, I didn't explain, but we have a regulation to use nutrients for as a fertilizer. So we need to meet the regulations first. So that when we have a plan to use sludge as a fertilizer, if the sludge contains heavy metals so much, we need to remove the heavy metals and or recovered from sludge to recovered phosphorus or nutrients from sludge. So yes, we need to certain standards for the fertilizer.
Thank you, Okami-san. Thank you for your the detailed explanation. Sorry. I'm going to move on to next question. The question about finance, it may be challenging, but the question is, I think we can bear the cost of storage construction in big cities, but it is difficult to secure enough funds in rural areas of developing countries. Is there a good solution? Could you answer this question? Do you have any comments from your experience?
Thank you for the important question. Yes, it takes costs if we construct the storage systems. But firstly, we need to have a master plan to install the wastewater facilities in the area, and we need to compare the which facility is the best solution for the area, so that the even in rural areas, it depends, but we have a technology to install efficiency. So the technology is one of the solution to solve the problems for the financing way, but also for example, the international cooperation under the international cooperation, the financing scheme should be needed for the wastewater treatment.
Thank you for your comments. Good answer. I would like to next question. I would like to pick up the question about the decarbonization. Already you presented about the decarbonization efforts in Japan, but again, how will you work towards decarbonization in Japan? Do you have any supplementary comments or anything to highlight again? Please.
Thank you very much for your question. To achieve the decarbonization, as I explained, we have to reuse the resources, but to achieve, we have many challenges. But it is important to clarify the policy so that in Japan, we launched the committee to discuss and are now making a vision and measures to achieve the decarbonization. I think the innovation and visualization are the keys. For the innovation, as I explained, we have a demonstration program already. But addition to that, it is important to strengthen the partnership between companies and local governments. So the visualization of current status and potential of the sewerage systems are effective to connect with all people concerned and accelerate the activities. We have many challenges, but we will move forward step by step. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing the current efforts in Japan. And the next question, regarding the wastewater treatment, especially on the industrial wastewater treatment, also there's some conversion of bioenergy to electricity. The question, there are two questions. One is that does your storage system accept other wastewater, such as industrial wastewater from in industry? And the second question is that how many storage systems in Japan are provided with the sludge treatment for conversion of bioenergy to electricity in Japan? How much energy currently converted from sludge treatment?
For the first question, I'm not sure I totally understand the point of question, but yes, in Japan, sewerage systems accept the industrial wastewater from industry, and there is standards to accept. But basically, the sewerage systems accept the other wastewater and treated the wastewater as well. And second question, could you repeat that again?
Okay. How many storage systems in Japan are provided with sludge treatment? Maybe the sludge treatment facility for conversion of bioenergy to electricity.
Thank you very much. In Japan, we have 2,200 wastewater treatment plants in Japan. And as I explained, 118 plants provided the biogas energy to electricity. Can I answer the?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much. And okay. Maybe sorry. Due to the time constraints, we apologize. We can't answer all the questions, but I'd like to thank all the participants and also thanks for Mr. OHKAMI for your kind cooperation. We appreciate it. So let's go back to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Asai-san, and thank you for answering the question, Mr. OHKAMI. Now, we would like to announce again the JW Asia Pacific Water Summit, which will be held in April 23rd to 24th in Kumamoto City. So, the theme of the fourth summit is Water for Sustainable Development, Best Practices, and the Next Generation, and specific actions and practices from the Yangon Declaration selected at the third Asia-Pacific Water Summit will be discussed. So we look forward to your participation. All right, that's a wrap for today's webinar. Thank you again for your wonderful and precise, concise presentation, Mr. OHKAMI. The recording will be viewed on our website later. As I mentioned earlier, this is the last webinar of the first season. We would like to resume the second season after the fourth EPWS. In the meantime, please stay safe. Finally, it would be grateful if you could take your time to complete our survey. I really appreciate your active participation. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to welcoming you to our next season. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.